Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guest today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back to another episode. We got some more bite-sized business advice for you. And I have a very, very cool guest with me today from the other side of the globe. And we are going over to New Zealand. Let me first welcome him on before we get any further. Nick Brabant, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I am excited to have you here, and I'm excited for this conversation because we usually talk about business. We usually hear from some type of an expert that's going to help us with our business, with our mindset, with our body and our health. Today, we're going to talk about some of that, but you created an app, which I think is super cool. Have not talked to a lot of people who've created apps, especially on the show, and I'm really curious. First, tell me, what is this app that you've created?
Okay, so the app it's called PLR Safety. So it's a personal locator relay, and what it is a personal safety device for your phone and your smartwatch. So it's basically a help button. Press the button, and it sends out a message to your contact details, your emergency contact details. Not everybody, and sends a location and both GPS and Google location. Yeah.
Does that send that like to the police or to your emergency contacts? Who's that go to?
It's just your emergency contacts. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, personal safety app. Yeah.
That is super cool. Yeah. I mean, to me, I don't know if this reference will translate to New Zealand, but I don't know if have you ever heard of the product Life Alert?
I have. Yes. Yeah.
It's for old people falling down the stairs in their home. I thought of that when I first saw your app. I was like, this is really cool. It's like Life Alert, but kind of for everybody and modern technology, which is really awesome. So I'm excited to dive in here. But I look at software and tools and apps like this, and I think there's got to be a reason behind this. So I'm curious, like, where did this idea come from for this app?
Okay. Well, it was about 4 years ago now. I was mountain biking with a group of friends, and we were about to go down a jump track. And me being a little bit exuberant, I went off a jump a little bit too quick, and I was kicked off my mountain bike and landed on. This is what I ascertained happened to me. I don't remember any of it now, but I landed on my head, was knocked unconscious. I was unconscious for around 8 minutes. And broke my elbow, a couple of ribs. My face was all messed up, and ended up with a flight to the hospital. And so that's essentially what happened to me. And whilst going through my recovery, I started getting some of the information from my friends about what had actually happened. And the recovery was long. It took a year to fully recover, but for the first few months, I was sitting pretty much just recouping, and some of the footage that I got showed the helicopter circling around overhead, where we were. The tree cover was too much for them to actually find us, and so they were having to do a grid pattern search backwards and forwards to try and find us, and eventually found us. It took them around 20 minutes, and that was where I went, well, if I had it on my phone or my watch and I had a help button that said that the GPS coordinates and Google Map, they would have been straight there, saved that 20 minutes, possibly saved a life, saved $1,000 worth of petrol or fuel, gasoline. and so that was essentially where the whole idea came from. Whilst I was there, the crash was it was quite a nasty one. What happened was, when I finished, I was lying with my head under my chest, not breathing, and fortunately my mate's daughter was following us down. She's a 15-year-old who had he'd trained her in first aid and found me and pushed me into the recovery position, and then went and got help as well. So she's my little guardian angel, and yeah, so that's where it came from, really. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome that she was there. You Kiwis are nuts, mountain biking and falling off hills and stuff. That's crazy. Although I've seen pictures from New Zealand. Was Lord of the Rings shot in New Zealand?
Yeah.
I mean, the scenery is unbeatable. Like, I don't blame you for being crazy and mountain biking like that. But this is, I love how like amazing products come from times of need, or in this case, survival and life and death situations potentially. Had you been by yourself, you may not have had the same outcome, which is super unfortunate
Definitely.
or in
Yeah.
situations. But an app like this, coming from something so bad and devastating for you, and now you're able to help people and save lives, essentially. I absolutely love that story. So tell me about now, okay, so I want to go through the process because I love seeing how business unfolds from idea to execution to actual product in the marketplace. So your app is currently available. While we're talking here, I'm gonna toss it on the screen in case anyone wants to go check it out, and maybe download it. It's globe wide, right? Like everywhere
Yeah.
can access
Yep.
it. Okay.
Yes. Everywhere in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fantastic. It's on the screen. If you're listening to this, it'll be in the show notes as well. But I'm curious. So you have this idea and you're like,
Hmm.
this is interesting. What was the kind of next couple of steps for you from validating the idea, but then to also like building an app? Because we were joking before we started recording, neither of us are technologically advanced. So how did you go about making that app into a real thing?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So initially, I had to do a business plan. So I've been trained in doing business plans through my previous employer, and so going through the business plan, one of the biggest things I came across was the personal locator beacons, the PLBs, and which people use when they go backcountry, skiing, whatever, places where you don't get cell phone coverage, and and I have one. I have one, and I didn't have it on me because I was in a mountain bike park. I had cell phone coverage. I was only a few hundred meters from the main road, maybe a kilometer from the main road. So yeah, you feel safe, but just the fact of the tree coverage and where I could have fallen down a bank or whatever, it, it wasn't really one of those things that you would have taken, to set off a personal locator beacon, which sends a message to the states through satellites, and then back to somewhere in Australia and back to New Zealand. It's this massive rigmarole. Whereas the cell phone thing just sort of made sense for when you're doing sports, when you're walking alone, when you're women's safety, children's safety, like you said before, the elderly in the home. If they fall, they may have forgotten to put their life thing around their neck, and so they've got their watch on and they can press the help button. So there's lots of different options there. Um, from going from that business plan idea, and that was where everything just sort of exploded in my head. It was, wow, there's a possibility here. There's nobody else doing this. I started going to Wellington, which is the capital of New Zealand, to meet with app developers. And this is quite a good story. I was meeting with these people. They were doing apps for banks and all these massive businesses, and asking. It was a lot of money, and it was going to be the make or end of my business. It was like, finishing at the start. But I was talking to an Uber driver, and he, this Indian chap, very nice, and he asked me what I was doing in Wellington, and I told him, and he said, "Oh, how much is it going to cost you to do that?" And I told him, and he was like, "Oh, no, 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 no." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "I've just had my own Eats app built by a chap, and it's cost me. It was a fraction of the cost. It was probably 5% of what they were asking these other places."
Wow.
And so I got onto him, and he's turned into, and he's on my website as well, Binary Code. Just the most amazing business to work through. He's yeah, it was great. And so I was very, very lucky and well within my budget to create this thing. So yeah, I managed to do it. It was yeah.
That's so crazy. So moral of the story is if you have a business idea, just get in like 50 Ubers and see if you get any good business advice.
It's you never know who you're going to meet with in Ubers. I met with
Yeah.
another one just the other day who we may be going into work together with. So yeah, it's good to talk to people.
That's actually interesting. I mean, kind of a side note, tangent. I've been in a number of Ubers, and I like to talk to the drivers too, because you hear so many cool stories.
You
And
do.
like a good percentage of them are just very wealthy investors. I mean, I've had several conversations. They're real estate investors, stock market investors, and they're bored. And they're like,
Yeah,
yeah, I just can't sit at home all day. I have to do so. I just drive Uber. I'm like, what? you,
yeah,
you know more about business than me, and you're driving me to a business conference. Like, what is happening right now? So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
um,
It's great.
that's that's a very cool story. So okay, so you got the app built, and then when was it officially like fully built and done versus when it was launched?
Uh, yeah. So the process of having it built took around 4 months, I think, 4 or 5 months of regular travel and meetings with my developer, and from there um, we had to get it launched into both the app stores, so into Google and into Apple. Google was very, very simple. It was done within, I think we'd jumped through all the hoops within about 3 months. Oh no, sorry, about a month. And so yeah, so to get through those into those app stores, you have to have lots of documentation about how you're protecting people and security and all that sort of stuff. They're very pro that, which is great. And then the Apple store was a lot longer. It was about 6 months to get it through them.
Wow.
Um, they're a lot more stringent with what they need, yeah, and how the app works and how it can be changed and people can, it was a tricky one. And I unfortunately I released it. So when it was launched officially, it was so with both of them done at the same time. Was only maybe 3 weeks before COVID hit, or in New Zealand anyway.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So
I'm kind of interesting then. During COVID, kind of seems like it could go one of two ways. It's either that would be the perfect time or the absolute worst time because everyone. I don't know about how you guys were, but um, you guys were pretty strict with the lockdowns, right? Like, was anybody even? Did anyone need the app?
no, no,
No.
we couldn't.
Okay, yeah.
I could walk about 100 meters from my house. That was
Mm.
about it. Yeah, it was very strict.
So then, terrible time to launch, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It was. Well, I believe so, but it didn't work out anyway very well.
All right. So then fast forward, we're here today. We're well past COVID, thank God.
Mm.
But you have an app that people need, and we're back out to our normal lives. So what's kind of been your growth trajectory, and how have you gotten the app out to a lot of people in the past 3 or 4 years? Because what I'm always interested in is, especially with a product like this, I deal with a lot of B2B businesses, so it's very simple for me to just connect the dots and get things out to the marketplace. B2C though is a whole different animal, and you're dealing with people finding your app in the app store and then downloading it and then using it. I mean, it's like a very intricate process. So how have you gone about doing that?
Mm. So it's been a very, very challenging process, Brandon. It's well, initially it's taking an app that people. Well, this is my sort of catchphrase that I've been saying is it's an app that people don't realize they need until they need it.
Yeah.
It's and so you're trying to sell them something that they don't realize they will ever need, or so marketing has been tricky. Um, the first while all I was using was the standard Facebook and Instagram, which this is only my opinion, nobody else's. I found it a waste of time. Most people are like myself. When they see an ad and those things, it's like, go away. I'm not interested. I'm not here to see adverts. I'm here to talk to my friends. I'm here to see what my friends are doing. And so most of my marketing is coming now, actually, like by talking to people like you, and networking events. It seems to be the best way. You start getting to know people. People are recommending you to others. I think that the LinkedIn seems to be quite a good platform for getting yourself out there. If people get in touch with you through LinkedIn, they're inclined to come back and talk to you as well, especially if you've got a good description of what you do and who you are. And yeah, and unfortunately for me, well, not some, the accident wasn't great, but it's actually benefited me. It's a story that people seem to be able to relate to in many respects, or yeah. And so by repeating that through things like LinkedIn, I seem to be getting good exposure, like good exposure. So the media side is one that seems to work really well. I've featured in 4 different magazines. So there was it's still the only online one, unfortunately, is stuff.co.nz. There's an article on there about me, and then 3 other magazines which are just paper based. And they were pretty much where a lot of the stuff came from. The people's inclination to download and give it a go. And I've done a couple of other little things. It's free in the Ukraine at the moment. I just thought, there's a lot of children in harm and a lot of people in harm's way. And if I could do anything at all, I'm not supporting, I'm not against, I'm just saying there's people who are in trouble, and if they can use my app to keep themselves safe, then great.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really cool. And I was going to say, I mean, a story like that, a story like your personal really need for the app that you didn't have is probably so powerful in connecting with people, because they can see themselves in a situation, whatever it is, whether they ride bikes or they go for jogs, whatever that is, they see themselves in that position and say, no, this could save my life. This could be a valuable investment, a valuable tool to have on my phone or my watch. So that's really cool to hear how you're going about that. I know it's a slow process and it's going, but looking forward, how do you see this app like getting into the mainstream, and what's your goal with it really to help people? Is there a specific community you're looking at? You come from, mountain biking, bike riding, but what's your ultimate goal with this app?
Okay, so so the app is I produced it initially as a personal safety app, right? But what I've done through my app developer recommended that we make it a white label app, which is essentially an app where I can remove all of my corporate imaging off and put anybody's corporate image on it. So, any business out there where their staff are at risk, for instance, maybe real estate agents, something like that, where they're constantly going to people's homes as part of their work, and they're often by themselves, and so they're at risk. And so what that business could do, they could take my corporate imaging, I can put theirs on, they can put, we can put tracking on it, we can put all this other stuff. It's got no tracking on there at the moment. I do no tracking whatsoever. I don't want to know what people are doing, but we can do that if they want. It's a bit of a task to do that, but we can do that for individuals depending on how they want to tailor it for themselves. So that's one of the biggest areas where I'm trying to get into at the moment, which is where I sort of link in quite well with your business podcast. Is that um, it's very tailoring the whole thing. So I've made it so it can be tailored for anybody to use, basically. Yeah, and so that's where I'm wanting to head. Like the personal stuff is good, but I think the business side is something that I can really start to attract. I've had quite a lot of downloads. One of the things with the app stores, many people will download, but they will never open their apps. Although they may open it, but they won't register. So, you know, you can have tens of thousands of downloads, but maybe only 1,000 people register, or so it is a tricky one. But if I can get into that business atmosphere, then I can actually start to work more with businesses rather than individuals, which I think would be a bit more profitable towards my work. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd definitely be easier to reach people, but no, that's super cool. And then a white label, you could always license, resell, or even someone could buy out the technology. So that's
Yeah.
that's really amazing. I love that potential, and you've already kind of thought about those next steps. That's fantastic. So Nick, I
Thank you.
appreciate you coming. It's so cool to see behind the scenes of maybe the next, who knows, Uber or some like really big app. It all started here potentially.
Mhm.
Definitely give us a shout out when you sell the app to Uber and make a lot of money. It was a pleasure having you on Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Brandon. I really appreciate it. Cheers.
And for those of you listening, wherever you are listening, watching, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode of Harmonious at Lunch and that bite-sized business advice so we can grow your business at lunch every single day. We'll see you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.